That part. Yes.
I'm gonna get it to you.
All right. No
Because
problem.
it is, I wrote it, there's like a collar. I'll say that is ridiculous.
Oh, you're talking the one on 27? We did
Right
it
off of
already.
20.
We did it already. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes,
All
ma'am.
right.
Done already. Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What, Dapper Dan? What's up, bro? Good. Rio put the drinks down. You ready, Rio? I call to order the City Council workshop for June 14th, 2023. It's 3:30. Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilwoman Campbell, Councilman Leon, Councilwoman Godaro, Councilwoman Julian, Councilman Stevens,
Here.
Vice Mayor Wilson, Mayor Harris.
I'm present. Did he call your name? Okay. Please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
God our Father, we thank you for your grace and mercy towards us.
We thank you for this opportunity to gather together. It's in this moment, God, we ask that you give us your knowledge, your wisdom, and your understanding as we prepare to discuss business that affect your people. Bless everyone that has something to do with the city of Miami Gardens. Continue to open up your windows of heaven and pour out your many blessings upon us. All these things we ask in your Son's name I do pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're on discussion, Mario.
Yes, we are on item 4.1, discussion on cleanliness and code enforcement of commercial properties.
All right. I guess this meeting was called in reference to the cleanliness of the city and issues of cleanliness around commercial properties. So, Mr. Stevens, I think you wanted to start, right? Is there a presentation? Oh, Mr. Manager?
Sorry, Mayor and Councilman. Joan Bispo is going to give a brief introductory on the for the workshop, so we can begin the discussion after that.
Okay. Ms.
Thank
Bispo?
Good afternoon. Joan Bispo, Code Enforcement Director for the City of Miami Gardens. I will not be expounding on a lot of the slides. They're there and there are copies available, and I can send it via email as well. We know what code enforcement does. It's to maintain the health, safety, and welfare of the city and to make sure we have a better quality of life. The Code Enforcement Department is actually the regulatory arm for the city, and it regulates building, zoning, and code enforcement, which relates to property maintenance. And that's on the inside and the outside. The inside is minimum housing, and the outside is what we would call the property maintenance aspect. The functions of the department, I know that everybody knows what the functions are. And if we go to the lean part, we'll see where we have that wing bracket there. And it's just saying that those areas are things that we work with the city attorney's office to get done. We actually operate under laws, regulations, codes, and ordinances, and these are U.S. constitutional law, Florida law under Chapter 162, and the county and the city codes and ordinances. So the things that we do has to conform to those laws and regulations. Code enforcement actually has a response to the behaviors and practices that we observe. And we create initiatives based on these things that we are experiencing. And that is to make sure that whatever is happening to threaten the health and safety of the community, we are doing something to stop it from happening. So that is why code enforcement is not one that follows a straight track. It means you have to stop, you have to pivot, you have to change your direction, and follow what these changes are that you're seeing. And especially when there are demographic changes, as the city is experiencing, we are going to see changes in behavior. So we have to make sure that we are getting those under control so we have a full grasp of what is happening. The first thing that we encountered was illegal dumping. That was one of the major concerns that we had in the past. And I will say in the past because it is not the same today. We had 57 known illegal dumping sites throughout the city, and that was in October of 2021. By 2022 November, we are seeing 20 illegal dumping sites. To date, all the reports are showing that we have 4 to 5 illegal dumping spots. So although we are still keeping the 20 on the books, we are only seeing 4 or 5 places where people are dumping. Another thing that we experienced was trash piles on the streets. That was also a major concern, and they were there for extended periods of time. However, with collaboration with the county, we were able to reduce that. So trash on the curb is only there now for 3 days. And if it's over 3 days, we can always ask the Public Works Director to remove it. So that takes care of that problem. Then people complained about junk and trash on properties. That was mainly due to evictions or people hoarding. That is not one of the occurrences that we're getting complaints on anymore. There are still some, but not as much as we had in the past. The walls along the major corridors, entering and leaving the city, most of them were damaged, in disrepair or needed painting. We worked to make sure that those were corrected and most of the walls were painted. Even, as a matter of fact, going into pocket to make sure that the people had paint to paint the wall as long as they were ready to do the work. Then we decided that for us to see change, and that is with management, we discussed it and we realized that for us to see change without having to place high sums of money as liens on properties, we would have to go towards educating the public. And as a result of that, we realized that the change would come if we made education the fundamental basis for getting the work done. So we started the educational process in the industrial area. That was the first place we went. And we decided we would not cite them. We would give them letters to let them know what the city is expecting of them, and we would watch to see what the result would be. The project started in June 2021, and we issued 518 informational materials to 103 property owners. To date, a lot of the buildings have been painted. Nobody has gone to court because COVID came and they couldn't find people to work on all that. But there is a big change in that area. We have not been called for illegal dumping in that area for quite a while. Then we decided that we would transfer the same type of strategy into the residential areas. So the second and successive educational initiatives were conducted in Lake Lucerne. We did that one on October. And out of the 69 properties that were cited, 56 complied without us having to take them to court or even issue a warning. The second one we did was in the Golden Glades area, and that was November of 2021. We cited 50 properties, 39 of which complied, giving us a 78% compliance rate, and we never had to issue anything. On 7th Avenue, we cited 80 properties, 66 of them complied, giving us an 82.5% compliance without us issuing anything. We did Bunch Park. Bunch Park one, I cannot assess it at this time because it was done in conjunction with the housing department to offer assistance to the residents. So that one we'll have to assess later down the road. Then we looked and we saw, so now this is another pivot and change. We realized that the commercial vehicles were becoming a problem. So we created the Commercial Vehicle Initiative. And in that one, we are making sure that we work every holiday, Christmas, New Year's, every day we work so that we can control this. Almost every quarter we are reporting 400 trailers, RVs, box trucks, whatever you can think of, they're here. And over the holiday period, we have 584 commercial vehicles that we recorded. So our focus had to turn to that. It was becoming a major problem. Then we did another pivot because we got a new piece to the city, and that's the annexation. So we did the assessment for that area on December 2022, and we mailed out informational and welcome letters to those property owners in January of 2023. We have 34 main recorded folios, but we have 47 businesses at that location. So those persons were informed of what the city's expectation is as they enter the city. Then we have a major influx of RVs. So we started the RV initiative. We do another pivot and turn and change direction again. That one we spoke with the city manager and we realized this was becoming a problem. Why? Because we were getting complaints of raw sewage foul-smelling odor coming from the RVs and other issues. So this one to me is more important than the other things. You have to stop, turn, and make sure you address this. So we change direction, and to date we have cited 468 RVs. The Major Corridors Initiative is one that will encompass just the businesses inside the plaza. So these are the commercial locations on 27th, 32nd, 37th, 42, 47th, 57th Avenue, 183rd Street, 441, and 167th Street. We have completed those areas, and we have included letters sent to all the property owners so they know what the city's expectation is, and hopefully we will see some change in those areas. With this one, I won't address this because everybody knows what we do. We go to HOA meetings. We have average 17 meetings every quarter, and all the other things we are aware of what we do on these. The model that we follow is one that we say is the voluntary compliance method. And this was selected by management because it shows that we are following what we believe in, that education is going to be the key to change. So we started on educating the public on municipal and county codes, also on state statutes. We educate with the expectation that the people will maintain the properties without us having to cite them, because that is what is going to provide that sustainability that we are looking for. We are trying to enlist the cooperation of the property owners so that they will maintain the properties, and we are not forcing them to. They know that this is something that is expected. In this way, we are applying a softer approach. I remember a few years ago, we were called to a church in Bunch Park, and the mayor was there, and one person said that the approach we were taking was too harsh because we issued tickets. And after that conversation, we decided that we would focus on educating people because it works. So we are trying to get the property owners to comply, mainly because we want them to buy into the city's vision instead of issuing harsh penalties. Why we didn't choose the other model? We never choose the model of enforcement because enforcement suggests we are focusing on tickets, and that gives the public the impression that we are just about to make money. So because of that, you don't get the same result. It's viewed as harsh and severe penalties for property owners, and honestly, it does not necessarily result in compliance. So we are saying that we can't use the two. We have to choose which one of the methods we want to apply. And that is something that, if we are to change direction, that is something that we're willing to do. Education actually is driving complaints that we receive, and the complaints are driving improvement. Education is increasing the code information that is distributed to the public, and the number of properties that we are citing because property owners know what the violations are, and it also impacts the level of compliance that we are seeing. The complaints contribute to the improvements that are quite visible, especially in residential areas, because property owners know the codes. Complaints also contribute to the positive things that we are seeing. House values have gone up, and they are no longer below other cities. The city of Miami Gardens is $292 per square foot. The city of Miramar is $297, $5 away. And Pembroke Pines is $271. So we are higher than Pembroke Pines. So the strategy of actually monitoring residential homes is essentially building generational wealth. So we are looking at the benefits that education is having and the philosophy of talking about voluntary compliance. It is actually creating stronger communities. We are seeing solid community partners developing. It is building a robust network. We have strong community alliances. We have people are not afraid that the city is stronger than they are and they can't fight City Hall, which is a common expression. It helps property owners to understand what we're doing and be more ready to accept the help when the city offers it. And it also creates effective community advocates. And I just put a few to the side, but there are a lot more. I have a list here, but I won't read the list. We have Miss Cunningham, who's very instrumental, Miss Cepeda, Miss Hughes, and Mr. and Mrs. Cole, just to mention those few. If I missed anybody, you're on the list right here. Gaining, I did ask the timekeeper to give me 2 minutes, but she said no. Gaining voluntary compliance strategy. It has proven to produce better results. We have a higher compliance rate. We have improved aesthetics. The city attracts businesses and keep them. During COVID, when people say businesses were closing, we were still registering businesses here. We have a greater positive change because the owners know and understand the city's expectation. And property owners feel empowered because they have that knowledge, and it helps them to develop pride in place. So that is our reason for using that strategy. It works. Strict compliance creates an adversarial environment, especially for employees. And it does not foster property improvement unless the property is sold. Properties are encumbered by liens. People cannot improve on them. And there's less positive change overall. The city has approximately 34,000 residential dwellings. And code enforcement is going to be more pronounced in the residential areas because it's more of them. The residents are more knowledgeable, so they are moving and doing things without us even citing them. And they are members of several organizations that we have throughout the city, so they are getting the education. The problem is we are not getting the businesses to get the education. So we are trying to find ways to get them educated so that they do not only have a financial interest in the city. We are trying to get them to have both a financial, social, and psychological investment in the city so that they don't feel that when I have a business here, I don't have to do anything. They will want to do it because it's in their heart to do because they own the space. Commercial property code cases. We have been citing commercial properties. We have 526 locations, and we just did the plazas. We have 447 property owners, commercial property owners, owning those 526 locations. We have 171 of the 526 were cited. We have 318 cases open against them, 83 for drunken trash, and we can read the rest. So we are citing commercial properties. The number of officers. We have 15 officers and 2 supervisors, so we have 17 persons in total. I am going to move to the next slide for this reason. We did an assessment and we use other cities to do this research, and that is what other cities have. So the average officer per square mile is 2.3 square miles per code officer. So let me go back. We are averaging 1.40. How quickly can we get a case to a hearing? It might sound like we can just get it to the hearing the same day. It won't get to the hearing because to get a case to a hearing is based on state statutes. So if we have a case that was generated in April, it will likely not make it to the next month's hearing unless it was generated earlier in the month, because you have to get the case. So I will say it gets to a hearing between 30 and 40 days. So first you go to the person and you might give them a notice. And even if it's for drunken trash and you say, let me give them a ticket. State statute requires that we give them 10 business days to serve notice to say you are going to have to attend a hearing. So what we do, we give them 3 days. That is what we give commercial properties for trash, because trash is easy to remove. As a matter of fact, the city manager was coming one day and he saw trash at one location, and the code officer, Cedric, actually went there to stand and watch the people remove the trash piece by piece until they were gone. So sometimes we ask them to remove the trash immediately because it depends on the situation. It might not be trash, it could be something else. But it's going to be the type of violation that will tell us how much time we give. Our timeline for trash is never going to extend beyond 7 days. And if we go back to the location and we see something else, for example, I went to one location, they had trash, I went back the second time, they don't had flies, and it smelled, no, you give them another ticket for that. So, we go to the calendar, and we say this is the month of May. We have the cases going to the hearing, and it's going to the hearing on the 24th. So we prepare the cases Monday and Tuesday, 1st and 2nd. We have to send it to the city clerk's office for the next day, the 3rd, because the city clerk will have to work hard to send it back to us by the 9th. Because on the 10th, 11th to the 23rd is what gives us that 10 business days. So the case cannot go to the hearing if we don't catch that posting for the 9th. And then the 24th is the hearing. So all the cases that go to court will more than likely be coming from the month prior to that. And the special master's hearing, we all know about that one. This is the code compliance process. We know about that one. So now I just want to talk about the negative impact that certain things have on the city. The trailers, they damage the streets and the sidewalks. So we are building infrastructure and they are tearing it down the minute we build it. That is why we put out effort to make sure they are not in the city. They block visibility because they come with the head and the box. So they are so long that you can't see oncoming traffic and people can't see to enter and exit their homes. And in addition to that, they're actually changing the dynamics of our communities by turning it into either industrial or commercial, and that is not what we are looking for. The negative impact of RVs. RVs are being used now as living quarters, and we have many coming in on a daily basis. We have pictures of those. We had 4 one day. There's complaint, and I tell you what people are complaining about, because the septic system in most areas is not adequate to facilitate multi-families in these units. So we have to make sure that we stop and turn direction to that, because we are afraid that we will see an outbreak of diseases that are caused from fecal matter, or when they are hoisting the RVs over into their backyard, they might let it fall on the neighbor's house.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Bispot, 1 second.
Yes, sir.
Is there a way that we can go ahead, because this is great. This is a well-prepared presentation, and thank you for that. But I want to be able, for the time's sake, be able to dive into some questions so that we can discuss a plan of action.
Cool. Okay, so you can read the recommendations that we have, and that will be the end of the presentation.
Let's let her read the recommendations and then she'll be finished.
Okay.
So she's on.
Well, I only have 3 recommendations.
Yeah, she's on recommendations now.
One
so.
is that we are going to try to increase the face value of the ticket for repeat offenders, so that when the person gets a ticket for $500, they know it might be $5,000, and that might have a greater impact. The second one is for us to try to probably foreclose on liens that are close to the 20 years, so we can collect on those. And the last one is to develop a team to educate commercial property owners. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Bispot.
You're welcome, sir.
You start out the question.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Bispot, for your presentation. I just want a few points of clarity. We currently have 15 code enforcement officers on staff?
Yes, sir.
We have 15 officers.
We have 15 officers. I will not say code officers, because every person, if you are in housing, you do code. If you are in anything, you do code. And I have gotten the data from other cities. Everybody, if you ask officers, you get just officers.
Okay, so we don't have 15 code enforcement officers. We have 15 staff members.
We have 15. No, they all do code enforcement. They might specialize in one thing, but when the housing officer inspector goes to a property, they cite for all the code violations as well.
So we don't have no.
Because
they're working, because if they're in-house, then they're not enforcing, they're doing more of the process that okay, walk me through that. What does a day-to-day,
The housing inspector is responsible for the reoccupancy certificates.
Right, so housing inspectors are not enforcing the law to commercial, they're not enforcing the code to commercial properties. Because they're designed just for housing.
Yes, they go. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
the person who does that also do commercial properties. Yes.
So he has a specialized program that he
Yes.
also does.
They
He
do
does
two things. They do two things. They do the business and they do the reoccupancy. That's what that person does.
So, no, well, I was getting ready to ask that. So everyone is doing multiple roles?
Yes.
So the 15 code officers that we have, they're doing multiple roles?
The 15 officers do everything that is related to code. Every person on the team.
Okay. Well, I guess the reason why I'm concerned about that is because it's not that the code enforcement area is not doing the job. I believe they are. I think you guys do the work very well. But I don't know if that's if we're being effective in that area when you have 15 individuals that's rotating on the back-to-back site doing what you just told me, they doing all areas.
The code inspectors, some of them are assigned to individual areas. The housing inspector goes out and the housing inspector does housing and business. It's called housing and business licensing inspector. So it's two things that job function is.
Just those individuals. And how many people is set up for that area? Okay, and then everyone else just focus on different areas. Okay.
Yes.
So I think we from the constituents that has provided me with information and from my observation, here's my concern, Mr. Manager. I think we're doing a great job with raising issues and concerns and enforcing the code to the residential communities. But when you visit our commercial properties, I'm not saying that the code is not being enforced, but we have an issue there. And that is where I want a solid plan of action to be created. I'm not sure if spending time going by educating property owners of what our code is as effective as enforcing the code and working from code compliance to code enforcement. And that's where I'm concerned at. I think the residential areas, if you ask me, quite frankly, I would say let up a little bit on the residential areas and put that same energy towards the commercial properties. But I'm not sure if I'm convinced that that's how that's working out. And hearing now that you have 15 individuals and everybody's doing multiple roles, as an administrator myself, I don't know how effective that is when you have individuals that stretched out at a city of this size doing multiple roles. Because one day you can be directing your attention to another, and then another day you can be directing your attention to another. So you're lacking in areas at certain times.
Okay.
So that's what I have a concern about.
The housing inspector does not go back and forth as you're saying here. What the housing inspector does, when the housing inspector goes to the property, if there are code violations at that specific location, the person is going to address those violations at that location. So that is how they come to perform that role. There would be no point in the person leaving the violation to report it to a code officer. So the person will do everything at that one location.
I'll reserve my.
You reserve?
Yeah, I reserve.
Go ahead.
Here's what I sense, right? I sense that getting something cited is the easy part. Getting the compliance to what they're citing is the hard part, which means that it could take you 6 months to get somebody to cover their gate where we got all these terrible looking cars on the other side of it. It could take you 6 months to get a fine. And if that's not happening, I'm telling you that I police it. In other words, I've had a business cited on 37th Avenue across from Walmart, right? And it's a car thing there. It's right over there where the HRS thing is. And they have cars over there that could very easily catch fire, right? And we have gone over there to cite this gentleman, and I believe that it has been more than 120 days. And there has been no legitimate change at this point. So and and that's one. I could show you 900 others. The truck stop, if I need to call them out. The garbage bag thing is out of the container. The ordinance reads that the garbage cans are supposed to be emptied. The pressure washing is supposed to take place, and the gentleman has not done it. I've been talking about it, questioning about it, and the other day I almost got into an accident because the garbage can was in the bin where it belonged. And those trucks over there are packed in there, and it's almost, I can cite another one behind the Lorna's, and you guys know, you ride behind on the Lorna's, the stop sign. I have called at least 5 times. Why is this stop sign down? When you come off of 27th Avenue into that Lorna's Plaza, and I hate to call it the Stadium Plaza, where Lorna's is, we've requested that be dealt with several times. And so the question for me, and I wish I could say it's been 6 months, it's been over a year.
Yeah.
So to me, I get the idea that there is I understand where they go to the magistrate and it may take a little bit of time there, but if you are a business that's been here for 20 years, 30 years, and you know the ordinances, you know certain things, why are we not having a more accelerated process for compliance, as opposed to when you have a new business that probably doesn't know all of the information? And I get what you're saying. That's when you kick in with the education. Let us orientate you to what it is that our expectations are. I get it. But I'm saying that what we are doing, to me, with 15 code enforcement officers, is we're putting, it seems that there is an insurmountable amount of effort. I mean, not effort, but it's insurmountable in terms of how you can follow up on it when you're steadily getting new calls. Because in order to be able to have a rotating ability to monitor where you have filed a report, and before you know it, 45 days, 60 days, 90 days has passed with no follow-up, it's simply problematic. Or it appears from where I'm sitting that it's no follow-up, because it has gone on for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, and the issues are not taken care of. I'm concerned about it because we are attracting solid businesses into this city. And even more so, doing a lot of infrastructure work on roads, really doing great improvements with our lawn care. And it appears to me that we have businesses that have decided that they're just not going to pick up the paper, like Walmart. You know, like when we look at the Walmart on 199, from 199, when you know, I'm just saying for me, if one comes in and has to put a fence up because these folks here won't pick up the paper, won't do the appropriate landscaping. So I go to Walmart on Sterling Road in University. I don't see any paper. And I'm trying to figure out, same company? So what's the difference? That's what I'm asking. What's the difference? What is it? Is it the business itself? Is it us? And I don't think that those are hard questions to ask. It might be harder for us to find the answer, but I think that we should, because, and I'm going to go back to the code enforcement. I agree with my colleague. I think infrastructurally, you guys have done an incredible job. Incredible in cleaning out the veins of our city. When we take a look at the homes, when we take a look at the roadways, the work that you guys have done, I have no criticisms with you at all. But I am not criticizing you even with the businesses. I'm saying, is our process working?
Correct.
Do we need to take a look at a better way that we can get these businesses on top of what it is that you guys are expecting them to do? Because in my own mind, it's like you keep running back to the same place. And I'm saying, why don't we just revoke your certificate of occupancy? Because it says to me that you want us on dirty dining. Because you're not cleaning up, you are not getting these urban animals out of eateries. You're not taking your garbage can and pushing it back in once you have emptied your trash, and it creates a vagrancy that is beyond, you know, what is imaginable. And so we have, and most people say, well, we got people from all over the world coming here. I don't care nothing about the people who've come from all over the world. I care about the ones who live here. Those are the ones that I care about. And it's not fair to them that businesses are getting away with just blatantly, just filth. I mean, just filth. It's unfair. It's not right. And so again, I want to ask, that's my emotional side, Dr. Bispot. That's my emotional side to it. But I do have a couple of unemotional questions. I'm sorry. Okay, let them go. I'll yield.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's hear from somebody else.
So to answer your question, Vice Mayor Wilson, I think that what the difference may be when you visit the Walmart off of Sterling Road and the Walmart here in Miami Gardens is that they're enforcing the code, as opposed to allowing these people the opportunity to continue to just comply. They're enforcing it. They're enforcing it because you can see it. You can eat off the ground. It's just that clean. Ms. Bispot, I want to say to you, thank you very much for all of your hard work. It does not go unnoticed. I'm telling you, yes, it does not go unnoticed. You go above and beyond the call of duty. I've seen people come here and complain about various things. You will step outside and have a conversation with them. I've been included in emails where you're following up at 2 o'clock in the morning, at 7 o'clock at night, when you should be home having dinner with your family. And I say to myself, my goodness, I'm like, does she ever take a break? So kudos to you. And I think that it shows, the fact that you have all of your staff here, it's a good look. I do have some concerns though, along with my colleagues. The first thing that I want to say is that educating the public is great and all, but are we sending our code enforcement officers to training to keep up with the demands of the city as we grow residentially and as we grow commercially? And if we need to increase the budget so that they can go to training, so that they can understand the state statutes, the constitutional laws and the different things, so that they can meet, because the city's just getting bigger. It is getting bigger, and so they need to be equipped with the resources and the tools so that they can effectively do their job. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is that I don't think that enforcement is harsh. Imagine having law enforcement and law compliance. If you see somebody take a red light, no, you're going to enforce the law and give them a ticket. Because when you give them that ticket, chances are they're not going to run it again, right? Chances are when they see the police cars, they're going to slow down. I think we need enforcement. We don't have to be harsh about it and we don't have to be mean about it, but at some point we have to step our foot down, right? And say, this is what it's going to be. We're inviting all of these commercial businesses to come here. We're saying that this is the place where you want to be. We're saying that, we have the Formula One, this is the entertainment district of, South Florida, et cetera. But we have to, at some point, we have to enforce it and say, we want to see our city clean. And what are we going to do about that? It takes education internally for the staff, right? And we're more than happy to provide them with the resources. And in addition to that, it takes enforcing code.
I think that's where we, as a council, have to decide what we want to do. Do we want enforcement or do we want code compliance? Because if we want enforcement, it's going to be enforcement. They write a ticket and they're gonna have to follow through with providing the ticket. And that's not just for residential. I mean, not just for commercial. It's gonna have to be for residential as well. So the grandma who comes here and says the sidewalk need to be pressure cleaned, which is nothing, and they fined her, she's gonna have to pay that fine.
Well, I have a question, Madam Attorney. Is there a way that we can differentiate the two between residential and commercial? Because quite honestly,
there's a difference. There's a level.
There is a different level. And the little old lady that comes in here and she's getting fined. Okay, well, that's on a case by case basis. We can take a look at that.
I'm sure I want to hear that too, whether or not. Because Ms. Bispot just stated that according to the law or according to their policies, that it either has to be enforcement or compliance.
The policies.
Well, you're talking about two different things.
Okay.
That is an approach to code enforcement she's talking about. as I heard Councilwoman Junior's question was, can we treat commercial properties different than residential properties for purposes of code enforcement? And the answer is yes, because in fact we do already. We can actually determine fines differently based upon whether it's residential versus commercial. So the answer to Councilwoman Junior's question is yes.
Thank you.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I have a couple more.
Yeah, I want to go back. So starting from what was fresh, I think that's what's necessary. I think we have to create a system as it relates to how we're going to handle the businesses, commercial and residential. I do not think residential need to, at this time, I don't support residential being strongly enforced versus compliance, but I definitely support businesses being enforced and versus being in compliance. More so because that's a for-profit, and a lot of our community is created on a fixed income as it relates to our seniors population and just holistically. So I think we do need to create some kind of stepping system for residential and commercial. I am not convinced, just going back a little bit as to what Councilwoman Julian mentioned, and I guess this is the perfect time that we have this conversation as we prepare for the new fiscal year budget. I'm not convinced that the model that we have in place, and I'm not challenging, I want to know, because I don't do code enforcement, right? But I'm not convinced that the model that we have with the department made of 15 individuals doing these different areas for a city of this size. I get it that we saw a chart up here and we looked at other municipalities that's doing other things, but the reality of it is that when you look at Miami-Dade County, there's only really two other cities that we can do a compare and contrast, because we're the third largest municipality in Miami-Dade County. So I'm not convinced that model of putting those individuals to essentially be stretched, in a sense thin, to do the work on a daily basis is effective. So I'll be more than glad, Mr. Manager, Dr. Bispot, to sit down and just see how that goes, because in my mind right now, I'm already thinking we're short. The other thing that I wanted to make sure we mention, that I mentioned as well, is at what part in the process, Dr. Bispot, do we start communicating to other departments, far as the police department, public works, to effectively address what's been put out?
I am not sure I understand the question.
Yeah. So when we're talking about enforcing the code and the citing and the removal, what is the system that you or a member from your department communicates to other departments, if any? If any, at which point do you communicate? Essentially, I think it's a code blue that you would determine, Mr. Manager?
Oh, he's the one that would call the code blue.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, Councilman, I'm the only one that can call a code blue. So I'll call a code blue when I believe there's an area that is just not in compliance with anything. We just have trouble all throughout the area, trouble throughout whatever the district it may be, based on my meetings with code, police, public works, sometimes with our building official. So then I'll call a code blue, and all those agencies will go out and cite everything possible that is wrong in that particular area.
Gotcha.
So that's a call I make based on information I'm getting from code and other directors.
Do we have? I guess that leads to. Leads to my concern.
And just so you know, that the code blue can be residential and it can be commercial, it can be industrial. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
Whatever it is at that point in time, that's when the call would be made.
Okay. And I guess to that point, Mr. Manager, that leads to my concern that we have all of these departments that at some point can be talking together to effectively get the job done.
And they do.
I would have to. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, finish.
Okay, so that's what I was at, that's my original question. At what point do the departments start talking to each other to effectively get the job done? That was what I asked from the beginning.
Once I get the information from code and I sit down with those departments and we really have issues going on in that particular area, we'll call a code blue.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything aside from a code blue that departments talk to each other? So before getting to the portion of you got to go to a code blue state, is there any other areas where code can potentially be working with public works?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Code work with public works when we have something on the street that we need to be removed. We will call them if the county does not pick up whatever the trash is that needs to be picked up. We call them. They will do that. We communicate with PD when we have special events to make sure they know what events are happening in the city so they can be aware and do what needs to be done from their end. We speak to the building department if there's an unsafe structure. So we speak round the clock. We speak for everything that relates to the other person's area of expertise.
If there's a need for towing vehicles, semis, things of that nature,
Right.
code and police work together on that. If we need to, during those instances, when we're doing those type of towing things, public works is involved from a street perspective, just in case there's damage on the street, things of that nature. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Dr. Bispot.
You finished? Go ahead.
So the question that I have, is there any way that for our businesses that there is a standard that's communicated that's an immediate fine that requires no 45-day compliance? And an example of what I'm talking about is like trash pickup. An example I'm talking about is when we have debris from trees that's in the thoroughfares, and we have construction signs that are on side of the sidewalks, pressure washing sidewalks on a regular basis, ensuring that your trash cans are emptied. Those are, to me, those are immediate issues that I don't know if I ticket you for it. It requires you 45 days to ensure that the trash. And I'm asking these questions because if there's
Can
anything...
I clarify something before you complete the question? The 45 days is not for the violation.
No, I'm just using that as an example. If there were some things that when I look at should be immediate. It should not have, and I'm saying, is there any way that we can create some type of a list of immediate things that are required to be done, and you don't get any time to fix it, that's over a 48-hour period, because it is a danger, it is a nuisance, and it carries with it a real waste of time for many of the code enforcement officers that probably have so many other things that are a lot more serious to be done. So when you go into a shopping plaza and you see the trash everywhere, and you see the sidewalks have not been pressure washed, you don't know where to park because the lines are not clear. And more importantly, in one of our areas where the parking lot just isn't lit. You can't see at night. I know that those create a different segment, but the question that I would like to ask, and you may or may not have an answer for me, but I'd like to find out, what is it that we can do to expedite the standard of how our businesses' faces look, with the trash in and around, with the landscaping, with the trash, the windows being clean when you walk in? Is there any type of inspection that occurs in these businesses so that we can ensure that when residents and customers enter, that they enter into a clean, welcoming facility?
The businesses on the inside, we don't regulate them. Those are regulated by the state of Florida if it's a restaurant. So we don't go in there and say we're doing an inspection. We do on the outside.
Right.
So when we cite a property for trash, the maximum that we will ever give a shopping center is 3 days. 90% of the time we're asking for immediate. So we are issuing you a ticket. We don't issue a warning for that. We issue a ticket. So you get the ticket, but you don't comply. We don't have any other avenue after you don't comply except to take it to the special master's hearing and to run the daily fines. That is the option that we have.
And how do the daily fines affect the renewal of their certificate of occupancy or reissuance of it?
The daily fines would not affect that. The reason is that the businesses are not necessarily the owner of the location. And the fine goes to the property. So if we cite both. We cite the business owner, we cite the property owner. The fine is running on the land.
So there is
and not the business location.
So there technically, what's the penalty then of non-compliance?
Well, if that is the situation, we can decide to revoke this certificate of use because that is attached to the business because they are not maintaining it. And that happens many times when it goes to planning and zoning. If the place looks bad, they might not get the license for quite a while, and that forces the property owner to fix the problem because sometimes the tenant cannot go and make the corrections like redo the parking lot, restripe it. They can't do that because they couldn't even be able to pull the permit.
Yes.
So it goes to the property owner.
Okay, so now I want to get back to one other question, and then I think I can do mine internally here. When we talk about the number of code enforcement officers, how many of them are, of the 15, just only code enforcement?
About 10.
10?
Yes, ma'am.
And how are they assigned?
10. We just got a new position for business inspector. So that one would be 10 that says code, but for me, all of them are officers. 10 that says code and 1 business license. That's why we made a recommendation that we're going to create a team, and those people are going to be focused on the commercial location.
And so on the report, and I would like to make this request formally. From now on, anyone that makes a presentation on the screen must provide us with a copy.
I have the copies.
Okay, so that we can follow with it a little bit more. But the question, because in the presentation it stated that it's like so many code enforcement officers per what, square mile?
Yes.
And we were, so it was never, it's not anything that says how many code enforcement officers for the population.
No, it's usually measured by square miles.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So if there was more housing, we would have the same amount of enforcement if we have more housing, even on less land, on the same amount of land.
What we will draw the lines different. So we usually take the map and we look at how many residential, and if we see that we have more houses over this side, then we would draw the line a little different over here. So we are the ones that set the code boundaries, so to speak.
So are there any numbers based on population?
Not that I'm aware of, ma'am.
So I think what the two of you guys are saying is that we need more code enforcement officers.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying that we need more code enforcement officers, but I am saying I'm not convinced that what we have is effective. And the reason why I say I'm not saying that we need more, because this is not my field of expertise. But what I am saying is based off what we have in place and what I'm witnessing as a resident and the feedback that I'm getting from constituents, it's not. I'm not convinced that it's effective with the model that we have.
And I think that what I am saying is I believe that based on the amount of new construction, new businesses that are coming in, the annexation that we have, the increase in visitors into our city, that code compliance, by virtue of those things, it appears to me would require some additional help. Should we move into enforcement, then that appears to me to be another area that requires follow-up with some type of system, automation, that the follow-up can be done more effectively and efficiently. And so I think it requires us to look at it from the human side of what is required to be done, as well as the automation that may need to be upgraded for us to be able to follow up and follow through what it is that we're doing here. Because I think that we have a team that has done an incredible job. They've done an incredible job. But the truth of the matter is that we're moving into another level of our own cityhood that requires us to revisit our practices and to ensure that our human resources are keeping pace with our growth and development. And so, I don't think that code enforcement is alone in this process. I think that we also have to look at public works. The more people we have exiting the highways and throwing trash down, the more often that trash has to be picked up than before. So there is an impact, a rolling impact on every single thing.
Yep.
The more we do business, the more the trucks come. When the trucks show up, where do they park? So I'm saying that these are the kinds of things that we have to look at, and certainly you're on the ground far greater than I am, so the details of that, you guys in your department know very, very well. I am interested in it because I want us to do better at it. I want us to prepare ourselves and equip ourselves to be able to manage ourselves so that our city runs as well as it has been and will continue to run. So this is not necessarily about putting anyone in code enforcement on the hot seat. This is really a fact-finding issue so that I can become more educated about how this process is or is not working, so that we can help our manager to provide you all with the support. Because I'm not a proponent that more bodies make it work. I am a proponent that better bodies make it work and better systems make it work. So, okay.
Go ahead, Kim.
Good evening. I just have a question. Maybe Madam Attorney can help me answer this question. Is there a legal way that we can have like a combo, like Linda Julian mentioned before? I know you said yes to that statement. Is there a way we can, when businesses open up here in the city of Miami Gardens, is there a legal way that we can have our own policies and procedures in place for when you come here to open a business? And then we could put some of these things, you're responsible for the cleanliness. Because I have seen, where the Starbucks is, there's a guy, I'm there wee hours in the morning, and he's always out there. I guess they hire them themselves. I know him, I talk to him when I go there. He's always out there cleaning. He cleans right in front of the Starbucks and behind the Starbucks. He keeps it clean. So I'm saying I don't know if Starbucks did that on their own, but is there a way when a business opens up here, can we make that a requirement? You have to have a cleaning company or something come and keep your area where your business is clean. And if not, then we will enforce the code, the violations. Can we do that legally? And before you answer that, I'm tired of looking at them shopping carts. When we go enforce that? I found 3 right on 211 and 32nd. I'm like, how did these shopping carts get here? They were not here before. They sitting there right now. So, and I know we did something about that. So it's getting worse.
I'm sorry. No, I just wanted to say about the shopping carts, Councilwoman. We actually have a informative process set up.
Education.
That I recently just met with the manager and Dr. Bispot and Tom, I forgot what I call it, the action team or something like that, to get rid of those shopping carts because I'm tired of them myself.
Hello, I was getting nervous. But can we get an answer, Madam Attorney? Is there something?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. The answer is yes. We do have requirements, by the way, property maintenance standards, which you guys should read it. It's pretty good. We have a really good tight property maintenance standards and procedures in our code. But But yes, you can, I mean, the cities have broad discretion when it comes to police powers, which is what this is. So yes, you could conceivably draft a provision in the code that says if you are a commercial property over a certain size, or if you're a commercial property with X amount of tenants or more, that you shall be required to have a maintenance personnel on staff, whatever, 8 hours a day, during the day, whatever. Yes, we have broad discretion when it comes to those things.
Okay, thank you for that.
All right, you guys got more questions?
I have one final
I have a
question.
question.
One final, let me say this piece. I think that the educational component right now is a good idea, and I also agree that somehow, some way, we do have to do a better job at enforcement, but there's that but, because sometimes our residents also in the residential part don't do their part to take care of their properties, and then when they get fined, they turn around and say, oh, the city's trying to make money off us, and that's not the case. Can we continue with the educational piece with the commercial part of this? Continue educating them on what we're doing, but we need to have a time frame somewhere put in place where we're going to have to do some type of enforcement if needed. And for us, I think we need to, all of us need to really read up on what's going on with code enforcement, and we're not going to be able to solve this issue today, I don't think. But we have to come up with some kind of solution to this entire process. So where would we go from here, Mr. Manager?
Wait, I'll let.
Okay, go ahead.
I know you want that question.
Yeah, no, I wanted to know the 15 number. Does this include the annexation? I know when we
Yes.
annexed, a part of our annexation, we had to hire
It
more
does.
officers. So that number is included as well?
That's correct.
When was the last time we hired someone in our code enforcement department?
We have one coming on board on Tuesday.
On Tuesday?
Yes, sir.
Before then,
You say?
before then.
Before.
The vice mayor, before then?
Before then, quite a few.
Yeah.
Because people come and people leave, and you have to keep hiring. So we have people who have longer tenures than others, but every time somebody leaves, we replace them.
I think that could be part of this solution to what we need to do, what we need to come up with, might be including additional staff.
Yeah.
For code enforcement.
Yeah.
So we need, I don't see it happening today, where we can sit down and discuss the policies, the
I'm fine
procedures,
with-
and everything that need to go into place with making this enforcement and compliance. So we have to come up with some type of
Yeah, no,
plan.
Mayor, I'm fine with that, but I do want, I want to be very clear. I believe things need to be date stamped. I
Wow.
think things need to be date stamped, so that we can actually create an effective plan. And not just keep saying that we're gonna do it and there's no results. So I believe I'm cool with that. Like I said, I just think so. And I also think, as the vice mayor mentioned, that I must agree with, this is not just a code enforcement issue. We got to look at this picture holistically and
Exactly.
see how
So-
we can include and make sure, and that led to my question on how we're including other areas to make sure that our code team has the necessary resources that they need to effectively do their job, and if that's the help or making sure we're working with other areas. So that's all I have.
That generally happens in the strategic planning process.
Two things,
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Manager.
No, go ahead.
No,
I
you go
will.
ahead.
I was going to say, the right time to do it is coming up, and that's in the budget process. So I'm more than willing to sit down with Code, Public Works, Police, and everyone, Craig, and come up with a plan how we can move forward based on a number of the comments you made today.
And Mr.
And
Manager,
I'll also look at, I know there was a comment made regarding if we should regulate residential differently than we do businesses. We'll look at that. I would caution on that part, and I'll bring it forward, because some of the things that are going on in our residential communities don't happen in our business communities that really need to be addressed. And the RV issue is a huge issue. And I just have to say, if, we actually caught a resident taking a crane and trying to put an RV in the backyard. Now, my guess on that is that, and this is another issue we probably have to look at down the road, and that is that you have the Airbnb issue in your community, in your communities, and what happens is those folks that have the RVs are living in the RVs and renting out the homes as Airbnbs to make money. So you have that going on as well. So when we talk about looking at things differently, remember there are different issues in residential communities than there are in the business communities. And I want to make sure if we're going to delve into that, we're going to address both comprehensively.
And make sure we get, you guys get input from all of us too.
Yeah, absolutely. We start our budget workshops beginning in July. So we'll be ready to bring that forward come July. I think we're going up to about 3 prior to, that's inclusive of your last meeting in July. So probably 3 workshops prior to the September. I don't know why my mic is, I just realized my mic is moving while I talk. That's prior to September, the September meetings. That's okay, I'm sorry.
You had something else?
Yeah, 3 things. Mr. Manager, as it relates to the business tax receipts and the certificate of use, which department issues that? Is it the finance department or is it code compliance? It's code compliance.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Because I think
And that's
about
the
the
better
processes.
that's the better control.
That it is a better control.
Yes.
All right, good. The second thing is that, through the manager, I just want to say, as I went through the Unicode for code and in preparation for this workshop, the one thing that I did notice is that the code was adopted in 2004, but there was only one update made to the code, and that was in 2010, and it was for a ticket. So I'm saying this to say that you guys are out on the ground, you're out on the field, and you're doing this work. This is not my area of expertise, and it's none of ours. So if you see something that you think that perhaps maybe we should enhance or we should bring forth, I encourage you to speak with your director, and because ideas are great, but they're only good when you verbalize them and put them out there. So I encourage you guys, if you see something that needs to be changed or have a question or a thought or a comment, express that to your director or express it to the city manager, and that way that change will come about. Because I was very shocked. I said, well, we're in 2023 and the last change made to the code was in 2010. That means that we are not keeping up with the times in Miami Gardens as we are growing residentially and commercially. And then the third thing, as we talked about and as I stated, we are more than happy, or at least I can speak for myself, and I know Councilman Stevens, agrees with this, that we are more than happy during budget season to make sure that you all have what you need to thrive in doing your job. And so with that being said, that means that code enforcement or code compliance, if we're looking to hire more people or if we're looking to keep the same amount of people, I mean, that's a discussion, for this body, but let's not forget that they need competitive researched salaries. And I'm going to leave that right there. Folks got to be paid. That's it. You want them to perform, they got to be paid.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, man.
You know we love you, right?
Yeah.
You know we love you.
That's hard to believe of it.
No. We love you. We love you. Well, I mean, it's tough because we want the best, but we know that the best in you will deliver whatever it is that we need. And you've been a great and awesome public servant and a consummate professional. And so the work that we do here is to help you to continue to do it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say, code enforcement or code compliance, your agency is, or your department is top notch.
It is.
You know, we call you whenever there's an issue or the concern that's taking place in the community, and you guys are out there, and we appreciate that. We really do.
Thank you, sir.
I guess all together we just want to make sure that it's better.
That's right. That's all.
Thank you. Need a motion to adjourn this.
Motion.
Show it adjourn. I don't think so, but it's done.
Offer programs like walking clubs, youth sports, alternative sports, and game days, amongst others, to ensure we have outlets for residents of all ages to enjoy here in the city without needing to leave the city. Speaking of leaving the city, you don't have to now to go to Chipotle. It recently opened